And there were a couple from a couple different people who were basically wondering, why is there this disparity between Raptors media and the outside media, let's say? And there's always going to be, I think, margins of difference, degrees of difference. However, Raptors media has been low on the team before and has been correctly low on the team before. I don't think people were incredibly optimistic about 23-24. Are you on the side of optimism? And why do you think there is this disconnect looking into next season?
I think I am on the side of optimism, yeah. I think some of the reasons why are incredibly obvious,
Yeah.
like health. I don't think it's possible to have a season, well, not, I shouldn't say possible. I don't think it's likely to have a season as unhealthy as the Raptors had last year. Scotty played 65 games, but I think he was only healthy in like 40 of them. I mean, he played the back half, like stretch of the season with theoretically losing hand.
It's that was like the politics of basketball, but I don't think either of us has an ear to the ground to really make that situation not opaque.
But something that we're at least paying attention to, which is, I think, deep down the list of what national media would be paying attention to when they're trying to
Mhm.
predict what will happen next year. And then a lot of the other major guys like RJ quickly, I mean, played very few games, quickly played fewer than 40. So, I mean, health, right? Health is a major one. Brendan Ingram is just additive from nothing. Like the rotation will lose Kelly Olynyk, who's hardly in it, Bruce Brown, who had never added, like he never found it in any way that helped the team.
I'm going to ask you this because I think I know where you stand on it, but the Brandon Ingram topic for this team a little bit it's really optimistic within Toronto, but I think it's because from the outside looking in, national media is always thinking about like who's on the track for a championship. And it is really tough to see that trade for Brandon Ingram as one that sets the Raptors closer or on a path to a championship.
Yep.
And there's not a lot of time spent on, well, no, they'll just win more games.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
In many ways, national media, I don't want to blame it on individuals, but has turned towards winning more games being a bad thing. Like going from 30 wins to 40 wins is panned. I think if you went back 20 years ago, the voices saying that would have been trailblazing in many ways.
Mhm.
Um, and now it's just thoughtless. It's really, there's no concept to it. And I think that's nonsense.
That's
There's
such a good
there's a
point.
balance, and winning 40 games has nobility to it in a way that is almost universally absent in national discussion. And why do they think the Raptors will get worse? Maybe because they'll get a little bit better. That's worse in so many eyes. So that's one thing. Another thing about just about the Ingram thing. I mean, Ingram and Scotty obviously like to take a huge proportion of their shots from the mid range, or at least have in previous years. Quickly and Barrett also do, and Pirtle as well. If you just look at shot charts, right, and so you think, oh, they all want to exist in the same area, and I think there's like a chicken and the egg thing there with Scotty, where he's only taking those shots because someone has to. And so I think the same areas of the floor thing is also big thing I hear from national media, and I think it's silly because someone has to be there, so Scotty was there. RJ takes none of his shots from the long mid range. He just has no ability with the pull up. Like biomechanically, his body's all akimbo. It doesn't work. Quickly, they're all floaters, and Pirtle, they're all created for him, by point guard. They're very different shots. I see no issue with that mid range frequency. I think it actually will be a lot healthier with Ingram, despite adding him to guys who like mid range frequency. So I think a lot of it is just attention. A lot of it is perspective. And some of it's investment too, because if it doesn't work, by gum, that would be a shame. And national media have no investment in that.
That's yeah, that's probably the best point is the shifting perspective on the treadmill teams. Nobody cares about a treadmill team, and especially for national media who can pick up and borrow from existing analysis if a treadmill team becomes interesting,
Yeah.
why would you dive in prior and why would you care? And especially since like, if you ask me, the Raptors even like a couple players removed down the line, is this a championship team? It's tough to see that,
Yeah.
but it's easy enough to see them being good. And also what you touched on and what we'll kind of I guess discuss a little bit is the tendencies and proclivities of players because it's the reason why the Pacers were predicted to lose like every single series on the way to game 7 of the NBA
Yeah.
finals and against a historically good team is because the synergy of players is started to become much more important because skill sets, they're not as vast in some ways and they're more vast in some ways, and the collation of talent is a trickier concept now. It's trickier. It's harder to say definitively where X and Y fit together because X isn't X is X point 0.007345 and Y is Y point 83218. It's more complex in how people and teams fit, and teams play with more like interwoven moving parts. And so that means that the best player on the floor doesn't necessarily win the series anymore. And the 82 game grind looks different than it used to. And the Raptors, an important fact here is that while people might look at this roster and say, if things don't go well, treadmill, they want to win. They've
Yeah.
paid to win. They have the
Yeah.
intention of winning, and they don't. This year is not the pivot point. Whether it's like as good as they want it to be or not, they'll grind their teeth and they will clench, I think, to get there.
That should have been my first point because the health actually was caused in many ways by not wanting to win. They sat guys.
Yeah.
I think the major difference is they want to win games this year and they didn't last year. That above all else will mean they win more games.
And how do you quantify that from the outside perspective? Is like, well, they didn't want to win games. They did. How many games did they want? How many games didn't they? It's the basically to answer this in the short form, they couldn't be fucked to answer like to look, I think. And they won't
Yeah.
be, and nobody gets penalized or punished for not knowing the Raptors. And the same way you don't get penalized or punished if we don't know the Bulls. Nobody cares really.
I mean, I used to write nationally, right? I wrote for 538
And let me
and the
tell you,
pitches
this
don't get
guy
picked up. It's not just on writers. It's like the whole ecosystem
yeah.
because readers don't read it, the editors don't want to publish it. It's a whole thing,